Welcome to the October 1st, 2018 edition of the BitcoinNews.com Daily Podcast. We cover the biggest stories of Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency every single day. You could count on us being here. This is your host, Space Marine, live from deep space. Jumping into our first story. John McAfee says crypto frees employees from subtle and refined slavery. And John McAfee has been an avid and outstanding and noticeable and aggressive crypto and Bitcoin advocate. And one of his greatest comments was he's going to chop his wiener off if Bitcoin doesn't go up to $1 million by the end of 2020. So maybe he's a prophet, maybe he's going to lose his wiener. Hopefully not, because he seems like a good guy for the Bitcoin world. He's even running for president, apparently, on a Bitcoin platform, so that's going to be really funny. And it'd be interesting if he even gains like 1% of the vote. If millions of people vote for him, that'd be really cool. So one of the quotes from John McAfee regarding this story is, "We live in a system of permission. Every legislation, every law, every regulatory agency, every regulatory body is designed to control our thoughts or actions or movements." I agree with him. We live in a depressing situation, at least in the United States, and probably most of the rest of the world, because it's about the same. The United States and their allies control about the entire world. I don't want to speculate or get into too much politics here, but I'll get into the facts. Everything you write on the internet is monitored by Google, actually, and Apple. Apple and Google, and Microsoft, which release all the hardware and software pretty much. They, in their terms of service, they say they could record all of your information. And then they sell it to like dozens, if not hundreds, of agencies that collect data and use it. And then one of those is also the government. The government buys this data, and it says in the terms of service, this data could be used for prosecution in a criminal court. So everything you do is being monitored on the internet. And then there's the laws. The laws make it so you can't even launch a business. If you try launching a business in the United States, first off, even if you get all the licensing, which is hard to do, so we'll just go through the licensing first. In the United States, you have to get licenses to run a business, usually multiple ones, even if it's something simple like selling ice cream or a lemonade stand. There's been people that had lemonade stands that have been arrested. I've seen that on Facebook and Twitter. Like, literally, people get arrested for running a lemonade stand because they didn't have the license. And then it costs thousands of dollars and lawyers to get licensing. So once you get past that step, then you have a bank account and you're doing business, and let's say your business is going well and you do $100,000 of business volume. Usually the banks close your account temporarily, at least. They'll suspend your account, demand all the info. And that's actually the government working through the banks, because when the banks report a certain amount of income or revenue to the government responds back to the banks, temporarily freeze the account and get all their info. Basically what happens is they hold them by, well, the balls. I don't want to use that expression on the podcast, but that's the truth. They hold them by the balls. They take all their money out of the bank account. Like, the bank account's frozen, they can't touch their business money, and then the bank makes demands, and these demands are actually from the government. And also the banks, they demand everything about all of their customers, about their business, about themselves. And if they don't give it, they don't get their money, so they have to give it. So there's no sort of thing as having any secrecy or privacy. And I'm saying this even for an ice cream company or something. It's not about being secret, but the government wants to know everything if you're making money. The government will stop you from even starting that business. And where does it leave you? And this is what the story is titled. Crypto frees employees from slavery. Yeah, where does it leave you if you can't start a business? And you're being monitored even on the internet, so you can't even get that business started at all. It leaves you working at a fast food restaurant or Publix, which is like the grocery store in Florida, getting minimum wage. So you'll be working at fast food, grocery store, any sort of retail store, car wash for less than minimum wage. And then, yeah, if you're a delivery driver, even for like Jimmy John's, which just deliver sandwiches, you don't get any tips, they'll give you like $5 or $4, because that's the minimum wage for a server. And then if you're lucky enough to be a cashier, you get $8 an hour. That is not enough to live. Do the math. It's like $300, less than $300 after taxes. They still take like 10 or 20% taxes out of that, even if you only get $300 a week. That's not enough to get even a rental anywhere. It's not even enough for a motel room. People have to live with each other. They live with their coworkers. They live with their family. They cannot even have their own place. They don't get enough to even ever have a savings. People cannot have a savings with the way the system is set up in the United States of minimum wage. And they could barely afford food. And then here's the thing, there's something called food stamps in the United States too. You get them if you totally have no job. But if you even have like a $200 to $300 per week income, they take away those food stamps. So you barely have food. You have to live with someone else and basically couch surf for your rent, and then your money's for food, basically. and like shampoo and stuff. And it's like it's pretty much slavery. Like, what did a slave get? A slave got a shared place with the other slaves. A slave probably got like a bar of soap. A slave got some food. That's about the same thing for minimum wage employees in the United States and probably elsewhere. The United States is supposedly the wealthiest country in the world, so if this is happening here, imagine the poorer countries. One really gross thing about this is whenever someone tries to raise the minimum wage, all these rich people come out and say, oh, it's going to destroy our business to raise the minimum wage. So people that are in charge of these businesses are not even willing to raise their minimum wage to give people a livable income. They're not willing to give people enough money to buy the food they want or even buy a place or to have savings just in case of an emergency. And whenever there's a debate about minimum wage, there's a ton of people, like there's an entire political party, I won't even say names, that like attacks, and they attack every single poor person that says, I need a minimum wage increase. They call them all sorts of names, and it becomes a big mess, and there's never a minimum wage increase, really. It's the minimum wage increases are always less than the inflation rate. And often there's no minimum wage increase for years. So every year while there's inflation from money printing, the United States has $1 trillion budget deficit. There's massive amounts of inflation. They say it's like 3 to 5% a year, actually like 3% a year, but it's really like 5 to 10% a year in actuality. I don't have the stats to show that, but it really is based on like what I see at the stores and stuff with the prices going up. And so everything's the value of the money's going down by like 5% per year at least. But then they're not even giving people a raise, and it's not enough in the first place to live, and then they get mad at people that ask for a minimum wage increase. Getting back to crypto. The blockchain and crypto field is new. And there's no degrees in it. Another thing that's been stopping society is they're demanding degrees from people. Like, I got a degree in atmospheric and oceanic science. I did really good. I even went to my PhD qualifier and passed it. But that's not enough. They want that master's degree. They want that PhD degree. And then they want a postdoctorate before they even give you a job that's like almost minimum wage. It's insane. So the good thing about the blockchain and crypto fields is they actually look at people for what their skills are instead of what their labels are. And they'll hire people that have good writing skills like me with Bitcoin News, and also I'm a good radio show host apparently. So they hired me, and they didn't look at my labels. They didn't look at my degrees because there is no degree for crypto yet. The New York University is just starting a crypto and blockchain degree, but I bet it's not even going to be that effective because the companies are looking for people with skills. If someone's sitting in college getting a degree, that does not show skills. And also, it's a rapidly expanding field. Most of the fields have been totally overtaken by wealthy companies and individuals, and there's no room for growth. Because if you try to grow a company in a field that's already established, like in the selling personal computers category, there's a good chance your business will get like ambushed and raided by like the other company. Whether it be through lawsuits or physically through an illegal action. So there's no room to grow companies in other fields. You have Bitcoin and crypto and blockchain. There's lots of room to grow. It's ever expanding. The price of crypto has been going up by orders of magnitude, or an order of magnitude every 2 to 3 years. That's 1,000% every 2 to 3 years on average for Bitcoin. It went from 100 to 1,000 to 10,000. We're a little below 10,000 now, but the next step's 100,000. That's the general trend. So there's lots of room to expand. And then all the people working have the opportunity to actually work to their potential. And that's an amazing and key thing. Most of these jobs, even if you get a good job with the U.S. government or a good job where you're kind of like a manager or something of a store, you don't reach your potential. You don't make the money you could make. No way. Not even close. With crypto, blockchain, and Bitcoin, all the potential is there to make the maximum amount of money for the maximum amount of work that you really can do. And it's an amazing thing. And it frees people from slavery. I felt like I was enslaved in the United States completely. And I was poor. I was a poor slave that had nothing pretty much. And then I found a crypto job, and I'm freed from the slavery. My shackles have been broken. And this is a real story, but it's a story of many thousands of people around the world, hopefully millions eventually. Unfortunately, the government's cracking down. They're trying to regulate it. They're trying to destroy companies. The SEC's busting a new crypto company like almost every day now, at least every 2 to 3 days. So the government's trying to stamp this out. They're like, oh, people are getting freed from the slavery. We got to stop this. Hopefully that doesn't work. And here's the cool thing about crypto. It's decentralized. The government cannot stop it. The companies can be stopped individually, but crypto has no single point of failure, especially Bitcoin. It will always work, and there will always be businesses you could do with it. It might be underground, might be illegal, but it wouldn't stop working. Like in China, for example, they banned pretty much everything involving crypto business, but people are still doing it, just for an example. I'm not saying you should go out and do illegal things, but there's no way to stop the decentralized crypto industry. There's ways of slowing down its growth, but it will still grow to its full potential because it's decentralized and has no single point of failure. Now for our next story. There's a Swiss startup that's seeking a license for a crypto and fiat bank, so this is a really cool thing. I don't think there's anything quite like this. Might be some close things like financial institutions that deal with crypto and fiat. Of course there are. But this is a real bank. So SEBA Crypto AG They raised 100 million Swiss francs, which is actually worth more than the US dollar. It's worth 103 million US dollars. The Swiss franc's always been a strong currency, fiat. And so the Swiss startup wants to build a bank which actually offers both crypto and fiat banking service. That means like crypto custodian services, crypto selling and buying, and also all of the bank services associated with a normal fiat bank. This would be absolutely amazing for the crypto industry. Even if there's just one in the world in Switzerland, that would be enough. Because crypto companies tend to work internationally, so if there's one bank that will work with them anywhere in the world in a safe place like Switzerland, and by the way, Switzerland has Zug, and that's become the nucleus of their crypto industry. Like Zug is like a totally blockchain and crypto sort of city now. And Switzerland in general is very favorable towards crypto. So this bank is very likely to start. That's why they raised 103 million US dollars. Because they're very likely to succeed. And so they're going to launch this bank, and then companies around the world like Binance, Huobi, OKX, companies that are trying to get banks, Malta's giving those companies banks. So Malta's like up there with Switzerland, but there's no bank/crypto service like this being proposed in Malta. So Switzerland will be the first to have a bank that's like a crypto bank and a fiat bank at the same time. It'll be amazing for Bitcoin dealers around the world, amazing for Bitcoin exchanges, amazing for Bitcoin and blockchain companies. So this has the potential to single-handedly really revolutionize the industry. It will be a milestone once it launches. Now for our next story. So Russia has passed a crypto bill, and people are calling it disappointing. The experts are saying it's really disappointing. And so Russia banned cryptocurrency exchanges just like China did. Russia didn't ban it as hard as far as I know. You're still allowed to peer-to-peer trade. And I'll go into that. Like China's their neighbor, their communist neighbor to the south. Russia's like no longer technically communist, but they act like it. I'm not going to go into politics though, but they're more totalitarian than like the United States when it comes to crypto. So China has totally banned crypto like trading, period. You can't trade it for fiat, it's illegal. But in Russia they banned the crypto exchanges, so now there's a huge Bitcoin dealing wave going on. And it's like even worse than before. It was better to have some regulations, and then so they actually get taxes, and they could follow what's going on. So Russia has been working on a crypto bill. That was the plan, to ban the crypto exchanges and then to allow them to exist again, and also crypto companies after passing regulation. But apparently, the laws and this regulations that have just been proposed that people are calling disappointing for initial coin offerings called crowdfunding, that's prepared individually and separately. The law was prepared by other people than the people that made the amendments to the Russian Civil Code. So some people made the guidelines for initial coin offerings, and then other people made the actual law code, and they didn't work together, so the laws don't really jive together, and they're really ineffective. And there's no idea of when crypto exchanges are coming back to Russia, but basically the government totally dropped the ball here, and there's no good sign of when crypto is going to really be regulated in a proper way in Russia. So I guess Bitcoin dealing will continue. That's good for the Bitcoin dealers there. I'm sure they'll be happy to see this news. Now for our final story of the day. JD.com establishes blockchain and artificial intelligence smart city research institute. So what they're proposing here, JD.com, is they're saying they're going to build kind of like a laboratory of sorts of coders to intermingle the blockchain artificial intelligence technology. Blockchain technology, we talk about it a lot. It's a distributed ledger technology. It's an immutable, cryptographically secure ledger that could be decentralized, but it doesn't have to be. It can be centralized. Basically, things in a blockchain ledger can't be reversed. They can't be manipulated unless by the people that own it, if it's centralized. So that's a really trustworthy way to store data. And then artificial intelligence is when people program computers in a certain way where the computers can start thinking for themselves and making calculations for themselves without the human making calculations. Because the way computers work usually is you have to directly code what you want the computer to do. The computer cannot do things on its own usually. It's just you have to code in exactly every step of what it has to do, and it has no brain usually. But artificial intelligence is trying to put a brain inside the computer so they can do things on their own, make their own actions and decisions. It's not really at the decisions point yet. It's almost kind of there, but very weakly. But basically, artificial intelligence will advance. The technology and fundamentals are there, so eventually it will advance to be as smart as humans, and that's called the artificial intelligence singularity, where they become smarter than humans and start rapidly and recursively improving themselves, and then society will change completely. So that's not what we're talking about. We talked about that on the past show, what would be the implications for Bitcoin with an AI superintelligence like that. What we're just talking about is the normal artificial intelligence we have now, and maybe some slightly more advanced artificial intelligence in the future. And you could use artificial intelligence in a city, like a smart city, for controlling the traffic. You could have the artificial intelligence monitoring the traffic patterns and making the traffic lights more optimal. That's just one example I could think of. stuff like that. And then you could connect it to the blockchain and store all the data from the artificial intelligence in the blockchain. Basically, the combination of a cryptographically secure ledger, and a main point about blockchain is like you can't hack it. So the basis of the artificial intelligence system will be unhackable, so the artificial intelligence system will be unhackable, so that's a good thing. It's good to have artificial intelligence that no one can tamper with, so it could use a blockchain cryptographically secure framework, and then you put the artificial intelligence inside of it to protect it. I think that's the main point here. And then also the data that comes out of the artificial intelligence will be reviewable, and humans can help the artificial intelligence become better because they can monitor the data on an immutable ledger. But the main thing here is to protect that artificial intelligence so no one can hack it and mess it up, especially if it's controlling the city's traffic lights. So this has a lot of potential. I think the combination of artificial intelligence and blockchain technology will be a major thing in the future. It's really like the most advanced science and computer coding that we have put together. So I'm excited about this, and blockchain has a lot to look forward to. That's all we have for you today on this October 1st, 2018 edition of the BitcoinNews.com Daily Podcast. Go to BitcoinNews.com 24/7 for the full spectrum of Bitcoin, blockchain, and cryptocurrency news 24/7. This is your host, Space Marine, signing out, launching upwards into space. Hasta la vista.